Hi everyone, I've got Sue Woodroofe with me today. She's the principal at the grammar school at Leeds and the current chair of HMC. She's very kindly agreed to talk to us about how we as directors of sport can manage up. One of the things we learned at the conference was that 50% of our directors of sport don't ever meet their head. So Sue's hopefully going to see how we can help from that. So what advice would you give to directors of sport, Sue, about how they could communicate with their heads?
Absolutely. And I was horrified by that statistic as well, Craig, not just you. And for me, I think that one of the things that we very much focus on as heads all the time is we're constantly being required to think about the strategic vision of the school. And the governors want us to have that strategic plan. And we've got development plans galore going on across the school about how we're going to deliver on whatever our latest objectives might be. And we're always looking so many years ahead as well as ahead, and not just at what's happening now and next year. And one of the things that I think has been really interesting in the last couple of years is that need to refresh. It's come out of everyone's invited, it's come out of Black Lives Matter, it's come out of the pandemic. And most heads and governing bodies, never mind when you look at the political threats like VAT, are saying, hang on, we need to step back and say, what is our core purpose? What's our next steps as a school? What's our longer term vision and how we're going to achieve that? And so all of that strategic discussion planning is up for grabs at the moment. And we're thinking all the time, aren't we, as leaders, how does what we do reflect the vision and values of the school? So for me, you've got to look at how important is sport in your school. And every school is different. I get that. But I would imagine that for most of the schools, the sports budget is one of the largest. The sports team, or at least the number of people involved in sport in the school, will be the largest. The number of children you impact will absolutely be the largest. So for me, I think what will be a great starting point, if those sort of conversations and meetings aren't happening, is to think about, well, what has the head outlined as the next strategic priorities and plan for the school, and how do we make sure as a sports department we chime with that we can be singing in harmony with that, and that what we're planning to do in our direction of travel isn't just let's carry on doing what we've always done, but actually can reevaluate and refresh our work in light of that bigger picture. And I bet if we were doing that, sports departments would come up with brilliant plans, but heads would be thrilled and amazed at how many of the strategic opportunities the sports department could help them to fulfill.
That's great, Sue. So let's say can you think of some specific things that you might want from your director of sport as a head?
Mm. Well, I mean, I think I would love to know there's a sports plan that I've seen that has been presented to SLT and that we've all signed off, so that we all know and everybody involved in sport knows that what they are doing is valued at the highest level in the school. And that isn't the most important level because the children are the most important level in the school. But in terms of there are no surprises. I know what's happening in my sports department. I know what their ambition is and their direction of travel. And I've been part of signing that off, as has the whole of the SLT. I also think that what I would want to achieve in doing that is making sure that those people leading sport, not just my director of sports, but director of sport, but maybe the individual heads of sports and all the staff involved in it, they know that what they're doing is of critical and strategic importance in the school. It's not just happening over there and we're paying for it and nobody's ever stopped to think about it. It is part of an ongoing dialogue of termly meetings, I would suggest would be great. And I'd love to have at least termly meetings set up. I have to say, I directly line manage my whole school director of sport. And I meet him every fortnight. And I've introduced that into our structure. And yes, of course, it takes up a lot of his time and he's so busy. And it takes up my time. But it's been part of us having a refreshed look at what do we want sport to be across a whole school, 3 to 18? How do we make sure primary and senior are tackled with an equivalent vision? And how do we make sure that matches what we want to do, looking at, if you like, the pressures and the demands on schools and on children at the moment?
Yeah, I think that's so important, is it, that there is a common purpose here, that we're all shooting
Completely.
in the same direction.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
my sports plan ties up with your whole school plan, well, that is the idea
Perfect.
we're looking for, isn't it?
Exactly. And if it doesn't, there's actually potential for a real problem.
Agreed. So when we do meet, Sue, what makes a good meeting for you? Time or information, directors of sport are busy, heads are busy. What makes a good meeting?
Yeah, so one of the things that we happen to do here, but not all schools do it, so adapt to your own context. But I've got a Teams channel just with myself and the whole school director of sport. So as things are going on in the fortnight in between our meetings, he can keep populating things under core headings that we always talk about. And that will be the sort of, where are we on the development plan, and the pros and cons of where we're up to, and are we relaxing some of our time deadlines, and are we doing other things more quickly? Then there'll be a whole element of, where are we on sort of fixtures and results, because we know that actually, and sadly, that's very often the only thing that lots of people want to talk about. And that's what they think is the only marker of success. But I need to know what's going on with those key teams and their achievements and how well they're progressing through leagues and competitions. So of course I need to have that information. But then there are the other elements of whatever might be your key agenda points in the school. So we've had a big push on developing well-being in sport. So there's always an update on where are we doing on our well-being program in sport. Then there's also the information about our co-curricular participation, because we're always monitoring, who's participating for how often, is it the same children doing everything and running themselves into the ground, and the same children omitted to do things? Also, my new Holt School director has had a really big push on partnerships and outreach work. So there's always a big section of time on that. And for me, that as a head is one of the most powerful things, because that has tentacles into so many other parts of our plan as a whole school, and also our impact to the children and the organisations in the cities and the towns where we operate. And so that's really powerful and important information that we share.
Yeah, I think that Teams channel or some sort of shared document is such a great idea, isn't it? So then even when the meeting is coming, you're already aware of the
Completely.
potential things to discuss. So it's not something that's you're being bombarded with on the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
There's continual communication, isn't it? I think that's a brilliant
Completely. And I
idea.
think that makes it more manageable for
Yeah,
directors of sport who are mad busy.
yeah.
You know,
And we talk about support. It works both ways, Sue. How do you think a director of sport can support their head?
Mm. Well, I think just being in tune with what we're trying to do as a school. I go back to what I said earlier, that the sports piece of any school's puzzle, and for some more than others, I appreciate, is so important. And it's hugely important to pupils and their parents. So actually, it wouldn't be helpful to a head if sport is somewhere left field, no pun intended, and actually isn't part of, the core match that's being played at the heart of the school. So there's that real sense of, I would want to be able to be reassured that we're not setting off in opposite directions, that focal point, there's a shared vision, and how that looks in sport and how it looks in academics and pastoral and how it fits into a whole school plan is the same as it would be in any other part of school life. So I think it's that sense of be in regular contact,
Yeah,
be aligned as much as possible with what is the whole school direction of travel, and then have those meetings with that setup of a Teams channel or whatever it is, so that as a head, I know we are completely in tune. And I know where we can have a really positive impact. It also means as a head, if I think that director of sport is taking on too much, or the director of sport is trying to go off in a direction that they're being really, really pressured in, because as soon as other organizations see what some of them have done with GSAL, oh, they all want a piece of it. But actually, I don't have enough staff to do a piece of it in every organization. So it's also, how can we make sure we help each other to manage that, so that I haven't got a brilliant director of sport trying to take on too much as well, and that's properly orchestrated. So I think it's about just having that synergy and really speaking regularly, understanding what we're doing regularly, and sharing it with each other so that we can refine what we're doing, work out what we're saying yes to, and work out what we're saying no to. That's actually a great way for, I think, heads to support DOSs, but also DOSs hopefully to support heads.
yeah, that's great advice. And actually, simple. You would, every director of sport can do those things, can't they? So a common purpose is key.
Absolutely.
Regular
Yeah.
communication. I've not thought of a Teams channel before, but I think that's really good. And then even if you're meeting weekly, twice weekly, half termly or termly, you've still got that channel of communication open. And then the shared vision is key to it, isn't it?
Absolutely, because that will make everything a success or not. And I do think that children need different things to that which they needed from a school, never mind a sports department 15, 20 years ago. But I also think parents have such different expectations as well. So, for me, managing all of that and making sure you can help the DOS to do that as a head is really important. And that's why having a clear vision, a clear plan, it being aligned with the school plan helps everybody, because it's very clear then to manage expectations too.
That's brilliant. Thanks so much for your time today, Sue. Really appreciate it, and catch up soon. Thank you, Sue.
Always great to see you. Take care, Chris. Bye.